Hello book friends and welcome back to my channel. It is so lovely to have you here. Today we are doing the mid-year book tag, which over the years of me watching BookTube has always been one of my favorite to consume and see what everyone around the world is reading and have done for like the past 6 months, and then what their goals are for the next 6 months of the year. For me, I have written down all of the mid-year tag questions in my book journal. Let's get straight into it. What's the best book you've read so far in 2024? For me, the best book I have read in 2024 so far is Swift and Saddled by Lassoed. If you want a cowboy romance, this is going to be your jam. I am obsessed with this book. I actually only read this month. I couldn't put it down. I finished it in about 48 hours. It had the spice. It had the great storyline. She's my new fave. Like, I can't put this stuff down. I can't stop recommending it. I know that she only has 2 books out, another one I'm going to talk about later in this video. If you have not gotten your hands on this yet, do it. You will not regret it. I'm a total sucker for this genre now. What's the best sequel you have read so far in 2024? The best sequel I have read is The Rulebook by Sarah Adams. So this is the sequel to The Cheat Sheet. I know that like with some romance books, they're not necessarily considered a sequel. However, they have the same characters that overflow into the second book from the first, or it's like the best friend or the other guy on the team, which in this instance it is. The Cheat Sheet is an NFL romance, which again, totally going down the American romance route, but I loved it. A couple of years later, which ended up being this year, The Rulebook came out and I adored this. So this was following Nora and Derek was always the player in the first book, The Cheat Sheet. So it was really lovely to see someone from his past come back and kind of have an explanation for why he acts the way that he does. If you have read The Cheat Sheet and you haven't read this yet, it is fabulous. A new release you haven't read yet but would like to. The work by Bri Lee. I absolutely adore Bri Lee. I have read a couple of her non-fiction books and this is her first fiction. She is an Australian powerhouse of a woman. She is in journalism. She also runs a podcast. Her writing is phenomenal. This follows privilege, power, the challenges of outgrowing friendships or romantic relationships, and kind of being career driven, which can always be a challenge as a female in a workplace and in life. I am very, very excited to read this. I just have not gotten to it yet because it's more of an artistic literary fiction, which, as you can tell by the 2 books that I've just recommended, I have so not been in that mood. I know that come springtime, that's usually when I pick up my literature books, and most of my literature that I pick up is usually Australian because it's my favorite. So Bri Lee is definitely on the list. Most anticipated book for the second half of this year. I would be lying if I did not admit, like every other booktuber and book fanatic, that Reckless by Lauren Roberts is definitely up there as my most anticipated book for the second half of this year. However, the new author that I found, Lyla Sage, the 3rd book out of the family, is coming out. It's called Lost and Lassoed, and it is coming out in November. So I am very, very much anticipating that. And again, I think it will be another book that I devour in 48 hours. Coffee break. Biggest surprise book of this year so far? I would have to say When in Rome by Sarah Adams. I know I shouldn't doubt Sarah Adams because she is one of my favorites. I have nearly read all of her books. However, I just know that this book is so beloved by so many people, and I thought, oh no, surely not. She can't do it again. She can't get all of these books being 5 stars reads for me. She did it. She totally did it. I loved When in Rome. I could not put this bad boy down, and I'm so glad that I chose to read it this year. And it, again, small town romances, there's something about them I just can't stop. Favorite new author, debut, or new to you? Debut author Kristen Ciccarelli totally did it for me. The Crimson Moth was fantastic. I adored this fantasy romance. Witch hunters, witches, history, very mysterious. I couldn't put this down, so I'm very excited for the next book to come out. I have a feeling it's not until next year, however, I could totally be wrong. So if I am wrong, put it in with the last question of anticipated releases, because this is part of that selection. Newest fictional crush. My newest fictional crush is hands down Luke from Done and Dusted out of Lyla Sage's continued series. He is gorgeous. He is not your typical cowboy, which we appreciate. He actually runs the local pub, but he has been friends with the family for so long, and this book is about the sister of the two other brothers, and this is actually the first book in the series. He's just divine. I love a romance where it's been like, you know, the person has been there the whole time, but it just takes time to go away, understand that each person needed to grow before they could come back together, then grow together and have something really, really special. Divine. A book that made you cry. As cheesy as it is, I do remember shedding a few tears in this book because it was just so happy when they finally did work things out and get together at the end. So sometimes the romances do it to you. I'm telling you, they turn on the waterworks. A book that made you happy. For me, starting to reread Throne of Glass this year has made me so happy. There's just something about rereading the first few books that introduced you to the joy and love of reading, and also your favorite, like, hands down series. It's so cozy, it's so nostalgic. Does anybody else, tell me in the comments, do you totally get thrown back to memories of when you were reading this book for the first time? So as you're reading snippets, is there like a monologue, or is there a place in your brain that it takes you to that memory? Because for me, when I'm reading this book, I can vividly see like my high school bedroom, the bookmark that I was using, my mum coming and knocking on the door to be like, Melissa, dinner is ready. You need to come and eat dinner. Stop reading. As much as my parents adored the fact that I was reading, they didn't want to stop me because I was so happy. There's just so many vivid memories that come back with this series. So if that's you as well, comment below, but this has definitely been a book that has made me happy this year. What books do you need to read by the end of this year? I have 4 books that I'm desperate to read by the end of this year. One of them is The Unexpected Mess of It All by Gabrielle Tozer. This is a young adult romance, and Gabby is actually a friend, which is so lovely, and she's also coming to our book festival. She is Aussie, she's divine, she particularly is an absolute gun at writing young adult fictions, so I'm very excited to pick this up. She's on the Money is also another one. I know, I have not read this yet. Victoria Devine, if you are Australian, you know that she is the female money guru. This is certainly a book that I need to get reading by the end of this year and put all those tips and tricks in place. Olivie Blake, One for My Enemy. This is a book that I picked up cheap as chips. It was either at Big W or Kmart, and I think I got it for like $5 or $7, not gonna lie. It was when the B format was coming out, so the smaller version. This book is a fantastical retelling of Romeo and Juliet. I haven't read the original Romeo and Juliet, however, Olivie Blake has such a high reputation in fantasy writing, but also romance writing. She also has Atlas 6. I'm very excited to pick this up, and I know a good friend of mine as well would like to read it, so maybe we'll be doing a bit of a book buddy read. And then the last book that I am desperate to get to by the end of this year is The Mistress of Dara Island by Averil Kenny. Averil is a must for me. I always devour her books. I don't know why, I just haven't been in the mood for historical fiction at the moment. I've definitely been on the romance bandwagon. Her books never disappoint me. There's always a mystery, there's always a romance, there's always some kind of periodic drama, and they're usually almost always set in far north Queensland because that's where Averil is from. So this is a must by the end of this year. Oh, I almost forgot one more that I have to read, if I can put a picture in here. Sandie Docker. Sandie Docker is also a must read for me. Her brand new book has just come out called The Lyrebird Ladies Choir. Sandie was actually one of the very first advanced reader copy books that I picked up in the bookstore years and years ago. To be reading her fifth book on the market with Penguin Books is very, very exciting. I'm very keen for that book and it needs to be read by the end of the year. It's a must. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope my mid-year book tag has inspired you and propelled you into knowing what you're going to read for the next 6 months of this year. I know that I have some serious reading to do. Happy reading, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. And also to date, I've read 22 books. That makes me pretty happy. Considering everything I've had on this year, planning a book festival, doing a blog and a book column, I think